I'm here at Sales, a lovely restaurant at West Haven Marina, and with me is Justin Green, who is the resident expert on all things cocktail, and he's going to be filling us in on everything we care to know about that fantastic subject. Justin, shall we go take a look?
Okay, Sam, we're going to start with the fruit that we're going to be using in the bar today. Fresh lemons, fresh limes, maraschino cherries, stuffed olives, Worcestershire sauce, Basco, sea salt, cucumber, cinnamon sticks, some nutmeg, sugar cubes, Angostura bitters, tongs, lemon zester, wine knife, bar blender, shaker, frappe machine, bar spoon, demerara sugar, absolutely fresh cream. Okay, Sam, I'm just going to talk you through a couple of these products. Marie Brizard syrups. These are like syrups, modifiers that we're going to be using in some cocktails, and some of them we're going to be serving neat. Start with the amaretto, which is a hazelnut liqueur, and we're going to use that in an amaretto sour, which makes for a very nice sour drink. Most famous one being a whiskey sour, which strangely enough is made with rye whiskey, which is bourbon, not whiskey. We've also got what do we got here? We've got some cassis, which is for a Coeur Royale, a very famous champagne cocktail. I'm going to do something a bit different today, and I'm going to use this creme de framboise, which is raspberry, and we're going to call it a Coeur Imperial. Okay. Another interesting product here is the Poyard William. These are pears from the Alsace region of eastern France, and we're going to use that in a daiquiri later on, so it should be nice. And over here we've got Parfait Amour, which is was very commonplace in most bars, making a little bit of a resurgence. Basically it's sweet oranges and vanilla pods, and basically the colour is actually just food colouring. Okay, and there's a few other orange products. We've got a straight orange curacao, which is sweet oranges from Spain. And of course the triple sec, which is actually the strongest of all these products it's almost double the strength of a lot of the others here. And a triple sec is very dry, and we're going to use that in a margarita. And we've got a couple of other interesting things here. We've got a cinnamon liqueur or snaps. So that's something a little bit different, and we might have a play with that later. And put that in something. And we've got a couple of others here. We've got a vanilla liqueur, and a hot mint, and a sour apple, which is very nice. And I'm going to mix that up with this anisette dry, which will blend into quite a nice drink.
What happens if something goes wrong, like you don't have an essential ingredient or the fridge packed it in for the night? How do you deal with that?
Okay, well, there are certain provisions we can put in place if we don't have the right ingredients, and also we can substitute certain products. So for example, a good famous example of a very famous cocktail is the pina colada, which obviously is pineapple juice and coconut cream, and the base of that drink is white rum, which most bars will use Bacardi. However, there was a famous drink that came before it, which was called a chichi, which was actually exactly the same drink but had a vodka base. So if we really got in a pickle and we ran out of white rum, or vice versa, we can certainly offer an alternative. So I think it's a question of knowing your product and being able to do that. Now, with regards to refrigeration, if the fridge suddenly packs up, well, yes, it is going to be a problem. But we will do the age-old method of putting the bottles on ice with water. Now, ice and water will chill them down in approximately...
Okay, well, let's assume you've got everything set up as it should be. What's the correct procedural way that you should be asking the customer for their order and greeting them?
Well, I think, Sam, the most important thing, as soon as someone approaches the bar, is we've got to make eye contact. So regardless of to how busy we are, or there's 10 people at the bar, but a good bar person knows to be perceptive, and the most important thing, Sam, to answer your question, is eye contact. Obviously, you know, if it's male or female, it's sir or madam. What would you like to drink? And it's what would you like, not what would you want. It's what would you like, and obviously we're making them feel important and wanted.
And when the night gets into full swing and it's all bedlam, how might you modify your greetings sort of style, or how you're relating to the customer?
Well, also I think as the bar gets busier, if you can make that maybe a tiny hand signal, obviously we're not pointing at anyone, and there again eye contact, just to acknowledge the fact that we know they're there, and most people will appreciate the fact that you're busy, but they'll also appreciate being acknowledged. So obviously we have to go up a gear, and we go as fast as we possibly can. In terms of you know, upselling to customers, we basically like to honour what most customers want. If they want a particular single malt whiskey, for example, well, that's fine. They know how they take it. 2 cubes of ice, water on the side, quite specific. So it's all about reading the customer, really. We do run wine promotions here, and most people are willing to try something different. It's always learning, particularly when it comes to wine. We can say, look, you've tried that one. We can give someone a taste or a half glass, and say, well, look, why don't you compare it with the Martinborough Pinot Noir? And suddenly, you know, we've created a $16 spend from them before they've even gone through to the restaurant for dinner. For those who perhaps may come up and ask me for a vodka and orange, perhaps I can sort of detect they're perhaps looking for something a little bit fancier, cocktail. So we'll do them the vodka and orange, but we're going to put it in a nice big hurricane glass, and we're going to put a Galliano float on the top, and suddenly we've got a Harvey Wallbanger. And we've also given them a little bit of an experience at the bar.
Well, Justin, could you demonstrate for us the different styles of cocktails, like blended or built?
Yeah, that's right, Sam. We've got, as you say, shaken, blended, stirred, layered, frapped and muddled. The drink I'm going to start with today is Bloody Mary. Starting with the glass, we're going to rim the outside of the glass with some lemon juice, fresh lemon. Be a bit different and use some molten sea salt. And we're just going to put a little bit of ice in the bottom. And we're going to use some vodka, some tomato juice, put some garnish with it. We've got a nice thin slice of fresh cucumber, which is a refreshing addition to the drink. And just next to that, we're going to sit a slice of fresh lemon, good to have a bit of citrus. And most importantly, I've got some Worcestershire sauce, which we're just going to drizzle on the top and let it find its way through the drink. And got a little pinch of celery salt and a little pinch of some coarse black pepper, ground coarse black pepper. And lastly, we've got some Tabasco, which is from the deep south in Louisiana, Sam. And this was just a few drops on the top. This was a late addition to the drink as well, when someone requested the drink to be spiced up. The story goes that there was a famous movie star in the bar who wasn't served a swizzle stick with their drink, and picked up a long piece of celery from the relish tray which sat on the bar, and proceeded to stir his or her drink. And there we have it. Mai Tai was created in Trader Vic's in Oakland, California in 1944. Now, lots of ice in there, and the ice is going to move down the glass as we pour the ingredients in. First one being white rum. So just a little bit of white rum. Then we're going to move on to some dark rum.
And what's the theory behind the ingredient selection and garnishes and that sort of thing?
Well, Sam, yeah, this one particularly, we've got, obviously there's a lot of sugar in the dark rum particularly. We're going to balance it out with some juices. Now this recipe calls for tropical juices. Some recipes differ. I'm going to use pineapple, orange and a little hint of cherry juice. The cherry juice will just sort of balance the citrus. So we'll just pour the pineapple juice in. This drink, literally translated in Tahitian, means the best. And it's certainly very popular in beach resorts all over the world, and sort of the cocktail you'd have with your feet dangling in the pool. Now we're just going to put a little bit of cherry juice in there as well, as I just mentioned. Not too much. The secret of this drink is not to use too much of anything, but it's a good example of a built drink. Now I've got some Havana Club OP rum, which I'm going to just put a little drizzle on the top, and some amaretto, okay, which is an almond liqueur. This is good French amaretto. I'll just put a bit of that on top as well, and we're just going to pop a little cherry on the top like that. Feel free to stir it if you like, but the whole sensation is you drink it through, and then you get the amaretto at the beginning, and then you get the juices, and you'll get the cherry, which is now sunk towards the bottom of the drink. Here we have a slight variation on a highball, which was a famous drink. And when they're building the railroads in America, they each portion they put a highball up to signal that portion being built, and it was also the signal for the workers to have a nice, tall, long, refreshing drink. Hence the highball. This is a variation on that. It's actually called a tosser, is the name of the glass. Anyway, we're going to do a Singapore sling. And this drink is shaken in the first instance and stirred in the second. So we've got a healthy scoop of ice in there, and it's a gin-based cocktail, and we're going to use Plymouth gin, which very famous gin. It's the driest gin of all gins. So we've got other types and styles. We've got London Dry, obviously got Dutch gins. Plymouth gin, I think it's going to be great in this cocktail. So we've got a healthy amount of that in there. Just with regard to amounts, you just know that sort of 2 or 3 seconds, but it's important that the base that we're using, in this case is gin, is sufficient, and we don't butcher it later on with other things we're going to put in. Lemon juice, cherry brandy. This is made from cherries, also from France. I'm going to put a bit of that in there. And just to counteract that lemon we put in there, we've got some gum syrup. I'm going to put that in there. Now this very famous drink, Singapore Sling, made popular by a bartender under the name of Niam Tom Boone in 1915 at the Raffles Bar Hotel in Singapore. Now there are variations of this. The same drink as a gin sling without the cherry brandy. The classic Singapore Sling, which is also known as the Raffles Bar Sling. Once we've poured this in, we're going to pour half of this in, and we're going to top that with soda water. And the Raffles Bar Sling has a little float of Benedictine on the top. So we'll just put the soda in first. Okay. Now obviously all the alcohol here has gone to the bottom, so we will be stirring it. So just got a nice big bar spoon here. So we'll give that a bit of a stir. And that's sufficient. Oops. And And then we're just going to put a little bit of Benedictine on top, which is a famous French liqueur. Secret recipe, only known to the Benedictine order of monks. Okay, and some people like to put a cherry in at the beginning of the drink, but I like to just put one in the top of the drink, like so, and we'll just serve that simply with a single straw. So there you go, Sam, that's the classic Singapore slang. Okay, Sam, this next drink we're going to do is a blended drink. It's a frozen blended drink. It's another famous drink. It's a daiquiri. Daiquiri is always white rum and lime, and then you can throw the fruit or the syrups or both. Today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to do a Pear Daiquiri. This is Pierre William. Pears are from the west coast of France. Okay. So first of all, in this nice, absolutely spanking new commie cloth, we're going to put some ice in here because we need to break the ice down, make it a bit smaller. So we do have a frappe machine, but this is an old-fashioned method I thought I'd show you, which is a little bit quicker. Now, just be careful that nothing's going to fall out. Now we've got a nice big mallet here. We're going to use the flat side of the mallet, and we're going to smash that. Now the daiquiri dates back to 1896, Sam, in Cuba, and that was where the daiquiri was first made. Like all cocktails, there's a bit of confusion as to the exact story, but certainly an American junior medical officer took the drink back to the Washington DC in the States, where there's a plaque there to this day that sort of lays claim to the daiquiri. Some white rum and reasonable amount of white rum in there, and we've got some fresh lime juice. So a reasonable amount of fresh lime. They used to drink this when they were mining for iron. The workers would come to the surface after the day's work, and once they hit the surface, they had this really cool, bitingly citrusy, icy cold drink. Bit of sugar syrup just to counteract that lime, and we're also going to put a little whisker of Rose's lime cordial, which is also sweet. And this today is a pear daiquiri, so we're using the pear liqueur, as I've already shown you. Make sure that sits on the blender properly. Like so. So as you can see, Sam, the blender's nice and frosty, really cold, so when these miners hit the surface, nice, really cool, good consistency. Look at that. I'll just keep going a bit more because it'll sink a little bit. And obviously very cold, so I'm going to give you a couple of fat straws. And that's your Pierre William Daiquiri. Okay, Sam, what we're going to do here is a Pusai Cafe. And a Pusai Cafe is basically a layered drink. The French word pousser means push. So basically, as long as we use the liqueurs and spirits, as long as we put them into the glass in the correct order, we can guarantee the drink is going to layer. And the one I'm going to do today is called the Mexican flag, because it's going to look like the Mexican flag. So we're going to start with some grenadine, which is made from pomegranates. So there's a lot of sugar in here. So we're going to put that up to there. And the next product we're going to use is the Marie Brizard green creme de menthe. Now, creme de menthe, most people know it as two flavours, i.e. there's a clear white creme de menthe, it's a peppermint liqueur. They did actually, and you can get a red one as well. So, but we've got our red here with the grenadine. So I'm carefully going to layer the green creme de menthe on top. And we've just got to start this reasonably slowly.
What do you do if your shaken one looks stirred and your garnishes are dropping off the side and so on?
Yes, well, you've got a problem. If a layered cocktail, as I said earlier, as long as you put everything in the right order, and you've done your homework, you'll find that everything will float on top of each other. Certainly making one in front of a customer, just like I'm doing for you now, Sam, I think it would only be fair if we butchered the Mexican flag, it would only be fair that we started it again from scratch. Okay, so we've got the red and the green of the Mexican flag, and we're just going to finish that off with tequila. You know where tequila's from. And we're just going to go real slowly here. Now there's lots of other things you can do with Pusai Cafes. You can, we can put a cream float on the top of them and colour the cream. We can use all sorts of colours. Parfait Amour, which is the vanilla and orange, always looks good. Anyway, if you come down to eye level, we can see the Mexican flag there. We're going to do a frappe drink here now. Now, frappe drink is basically a drink served over crushed or shaven ice. We're going to frappe the ice with this frappe machine. You can use any, normally a liqueur, but you can use a spirit or a combination of both. Today, I'm going to use Cointreau and Bailey's, and that'll shave the ice. So that gives us nice, clean, fresh, shaved ice. And we're going to put this into this large martini glass. As we pour the liqueur in, the ice will sink a little bit. Okay. So there's the nice, consistent frapped ice. And we're actually going to start with the Bailey's first. And the Bailey's is heaviest. And we're going to get that all around the drink. Okay, so pretty much coloured all the ice. And now we're going to put the Cointreau in. Well, just the Cointreau is a bit faster. Put that across the drink.
Justin, what are your views on whether you should talk through the process as you're actually making the cocktail and sort of explaining what you're doing to the customer?
Oh, I think that's very important, Sam. Certainly, if someone's is keen to know what's happening, I think it's only right that we should talk them through the drink and explain, a bit of host responsibility there, that we've got to point out, how strong certain products are that we're using. If we're using an overproof rum or a 100% rye whiskey or something, if they're keen to know what's in it, well, we're only too happy to explain why and perhaps give them a little bit of history. Okay, Sam, now we're going to do a traditional Irish coffee made with Jameson's Irish whiskey. Now with this particular drink, hot drink, basically it's most important to preheat the glass, because we're going to be putting fresh cream and obviously cold Irish whiskey into it, so we want to keep the temperature up as much as we can. A few key points: if you're doing perhaps a hot drink in a brandy balloon, there's a few famous drinks. There's a blueberry tea, which is Grand Marnier and amaretto and hot tea, and we were serving in a very thin brandy balloon. So use a spoon, and a spoon will prevent the glass from cracking. Anyway, coffee's just about extracted, so we're going to discard that hot water, and that's a really nice hot glass. Now we're going to use this nice Demerara sugar, which is a little bit clumpy, but that's the way it should be. Some people use brown crystals or even white sugar or no sugar at all, but proper Irish coffee is always Demerara sugar. And we've got John Jameson's Irish whiskey from Dublin, and we're going to put a fair amount of that in there. Now, we'll just get this hot coffee and pour it in here carefully. Always make sure you've got some freshest cream, and we'll just make sure that Demerara is completely dissolved. Okay. And the idea, Sam, once the coffee is completed, we don't actually serve it with a teaspoon, and that way you get to drink the Irish whiskey through the strong coffee and through the cream. So there it is. Another little tip for an Irish coffee. It's really been made popular by Americans, actually, and people who enjoy an Irish coffee know and appreciate them, and they know they should never be stirred. So it's been made that way for that reason. So you're drinking the whiskey through the coffee and through the cream. So that's the sensation. And also, just one other little tip here. A lot of people are inclined to throw cinnamon or nutmeg or something. You're changing the whole drink. It's a classic, so we leave it as it is. So that's the Irish coffee. A few other hot drinks. The other real famous one is the Cafe Nero, which is with Galliano. Some recipes will call for Strega, which is also an Italian liqueur. And traditionally we actually sugar coat the top of the glass with white sugar, and we put the Galliano in, or the Strega, we flame it and move the glass, and the sugar crystallizes nicely around the top of the glass. And then the same procedure, hot coffee, cream float.